I just recorded a video for the wrong day, so you're going to see me look exactly the same for two videos in a row because I'm just going to post the other one tomorrow. All right, this is for December 6th. I am reading, by the way, I'm Vanessa, an alcoholic, and my sobriety date's October 8th, 2017. I'm so glad that you are here. And if you are in sobriety as well, I'd love to know your sobriety date, just to get to know you and where you're from also would be helpful. I am reading from this book, Keep It Simple, Daily Meditations for 12-Step Beginnings and Renewal. I can never tell if that's in focus or not because it's covering my eyeballs. Okay, so December 6th, we are reading about the 12th step in December, and I'm trying to make a video every day for this month, and we'll see how I almost just messed that up. So, all right, December 6th. The strongest of all warriors are these two, time and patience, Leo Tolstoy. And I'm going to read, reflect, read again, and then encourage you to leave a comment with your reflections, or just take this to prayer and meditation and reflect on it yourself. That's totally fine. Okay, I'm going to read that again. The strongest of all warriors are these two, time and patience. Leo Tolstoy. One of the first things we learn about in recovery is time. Before, we may have tried to control time by pushing it along. We tried to hurry everything and everybody. We wanted our quick fix. But the program tells us to slow down. Easy does it. We probably couldn't picture ourselves staying sober for the rest of our life. So we were told to just work at staying sober today. We learned to work our program one day at a time. We were being taught that time can be our friend. Time is our higher power's way of not having everything happen at once. Prayer for the day. Higher power, you are my teacher. You are in charge of the lesson. Help me accept this. Teach me how to use my time wisely. Action for the day. Today, I'll list 5 ways I use my time in ways that aren't helpful to me. I'll work at making time my friend. Okay, a little bit of time management and patience here. Well, let me tell you 2 things that I'm not good at. It's time management and patience. I was not born with a gene that comprehends these things. I just legitimately have a difficult time. My relationship to time has always been pretty fraught. As a child and growing up, for most of my adulthood, time, alarms, schedules, like these things stress me the F out, you guys. Like it's like having to know that I'll be somewhere, I have to be somewhere at 2:30. My entire morning from the moment that I wake up is geared towards leaving my house in time to get somewhere at 2:30. And surprise, I'm typically still late. Um, but the day I had a pretty good streak of being on time and doing a lot of things on time. And it's really stressful. It does something to my nervous system that is just like is a very anxiety producing thing. Um, I now had to, over the last couple of years, when my grief just didn't really allow me to be on time anywhere, I had to kind of reprogram myself or deprogram myself from that like very capitalist, like be on time, never be late, show up early, blah, blah, blah type of like mindset because it was actually just really dysregulating my nervous system. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna like unprogram myself from that. And then the pandemic hit and then everyone's schedule kind of went out the window. And it kind of helped. But then and then I started working from home and I had a little bit more flexibility with my schedule. But I still have this innate, like internal thing that's like, you should be doing something right now. Like a rest was a very complicated issue for me, which now I really revel in it. I think I'm a really good rester. I love naps. But these are all things that have taken place over time. And so time, again, is one of those things that I kind of have always felt to be my enemy. And so now I'm kind of struggling to actually be on time places and actually do things, punctuality and all of that stuff, right? But also the patience that goes with time. So this, especially in relation to like, especially after some relapses and people really tend to, in the community that I grew up in the 12-step community, time wasn't as revered as it is in other communities. People seem to think that if you have 30 years, that like, whoa, you have 30 years. But have you ever met somebody with 30 years who is like completely like just not cool? It's like the whole like I don't like my whole point of like when I got sober was like I didn't want to live like I needed to drink, right? Like the whole point of getting sober was to be able to live life on life's terms and be joyful about it. Like that's really what I wanted. And some people are really, it just seems like after decades still white knuckling recovery and sobriety. And it's like that's not the kind of recovery that I wanted. And there are people, that's also why I don't really, it doesn't, like your time doesn't really reflect. I mean, it's an accomplishment. I don't want to dismiss anyone's time either, right? I'm very happy with the 7 years that I've had. Um, and c- considering from, I spent like the latter part of 10 years drinking basically every single day. So, not able to do very normal things, even go to a doctor's appointment, I would be drunk. So, you know, there's that. And to now be like living and breathing and doing all the things that I can do now sober and enjoying it so much more, like that's a huge feat. I'm not gonna like dismiss that. At the same time, there have been times in my recovery where I have been so closed off from the sunlight of the spirit and been acting like a drunk, stone cold sober. Okay. I can still have all of those really toxic behaviors, those toxic belief systems about myself and the world around me, and completely just cut off from God. And I can be acting like a crazy person. So it's like, and it happens, I'm pretty sure, to like everybody, unless there's like some saintly, angelic, purist alcoholic out there who has managed to not act um like a dry drunk in their recovery. Let me know about them because I would love to study them. But, it is one of those things where, especially after some relapses, when I had even just like 3 months or 9 months or whatever, then I would relapse and I'd be like, oh, I just want the time. I just want to be able to say that I have some time. Um, but it really just does accumulate. I can't even believe I've been sober for 7 years. It really just seems like it just happened a couple years ago. Um, but also it just goes back to this idea of like, I don't even know what time is. I'm not even sure it exists, to be quite honest. But the patience, it really is an art of day by day, one day at a time. And one day at a time isn't even in the big book, I don't think. You guys can correct me on that, but it is one of those cliches that is true, like regardless. And so, a lot of people say, yeah, a lot of people do tends to like put a lot of emphasis or a lot of weight on old timers or people who have decades of recovery or sobriety, but I wonder how much recovery they have. What is their emotional life like? What is their mental life like? Are they still being of service? Are they connected to a higher power? Like those things are kind of, I think, more important than time. At the same time, time is still a miracle, all right, especially. But patience, another way that I've also learned to interpret patience is, in the Bible, it talks about how love is patient, love is kind. And I never really understood that. Why is love patient besides you're just annoying if you're impatient? I am an incredibly impatient person. And what I've realized is that this stems from selfishness and it stems from fear. And the way that these things relate is like, how are you being selfish if you are being impatient? And it's because I would be valuing my time over the time of other people. So, and I only really began to understand this when I became someone who started to run late, or had to leave things early. I had to leave, I would arrive late or leave things early because I was really struggling with a lot of like depression and anxiety when I would go places. And the people who were really impatient with me, and would kind of like hold it against me or make these snide jokes, I didn't feel like going into the whole story of like, oh, I'm sorry, I have like, analysis paralysis anytime I have to leave my house and I get kind of stuck at the door and I don't know what the hell I'm doing with my life. And like, I don't want to like go down that spiral with everybody. But people's impatience with me sometimes, I just like, oh, they don't care. They don't care about me. They care about just what they are trying to do. Um, Whereas people who are patient and who do care about me are like, are you okay? I see you're kind of flustered. Is everything all right? I know that you've been struggling with this or that, or like the, you know, practicality of this thing being on time is not as important as you being okay. And like that's real love. Like that's patience in love, right? And I learned this also, not just from my own experience of being late, but also when I went to the spiritual retreat last year, all of our programming ran like half an hour to an hour late. And nobody cared, it was beautiful. Nobody cared. And I never felt more at home. And the reason that nobody cared is not only because it was a bunch of Christians, just like, and it wasn't even just Christian, there was people of all faiths there, but it was through the red letter Christians. And it was just a bunch of people who are just enjoying being present and in each other's company and having these deep and beautiful conversations and just being able to like enjoy people, that is true love. That is joy. That is our purpose. It's not just to arbitrarily like, well, I need to cut off this conversation so that we're on time to this. I need to make sure that you feel rushed and hurried and feel bad if you're running late because I have a program that I need to stick to. Like that's not love. Okay, that's capitalism. That's us being conditioned to be what we're not, which are like machines that are like run on time, right? Um, and that's my excuse for being late to everything. Thank you. No, but seriously, love is patience and it involves that we kind of do this waltz with time. And I feel like that's why we also sometimes become impatient with ourselves because we lack our own self-love sometimes. And so if you find yourself being impatient, be like, with somebody else, be like, am I valuing my time in my life over this person? And then if you find yourself being impatient with yourself, be like, am I showing myself love and compassion right now? Um, that's all you can really do. At the end of the day, no one's going to, when you're dead in a casket, no one's going to tally up all the times that you didn't meet time's expectations. You really just need to practice, we need to practice patience with ourselves, and then we are able to extend that patience with others too. And that's something that I'm personally still working on. Um, and yeah, this idea of not being able to picture ourselves staying sober for the rest of our life. I couldn't imagine staying sober. I could not imagine when I was, oh my God, it was so hard just to make it through an hour. It was, and that's not an exaggeration. I was minute by minute breathing and praying to just please not bolt down the street and steal some wine from CVS because I was so poor and broke. Like, I legitimately, I can almost feel like God now just resonating, like, oh, that was like a tough time. That was a tough time. That was a tough time. I really cannot, let alone 7 years. I could not imagine that. It was breath by breath. I was just trying to stay sober. Um, and so, like it says, the program tells us to slow down. Easy does it. And it's true, and it's beautiful, and it works. And if you're struggling with any of that, just really reflect on this again. So I'm going to go ahead and read this again, and then I invite you to go ahead and leave your comments with your experience on time and patience. I would love to hear from you. So I'll go ahead and read this again and take this to your prayer and meditation as well and see how it sits and resonates with you. December 6th. The strongest of all warriors are these two, time and patience. Leo Tolstoy. One of the first things we learn about in recovery is time. Before, we may have tried to control time by pushing it along. We tried to hurry everything and everybody. We wanted our quick fix, but the program tells us to slow down. Easy does it. We probably couldn't picture ourselves staying sober for the rest of our life. So we were told to just work at staying sober today. We learned to work our program one day at a time. We were being taught that time can be our friend. Time is our higher power's way of not having everything happen at once. Prayer for the day. Higher power, you are my teacher. You are in charge of the lesson. Help me accept this. Teach me how to use my time wisely. Action for the day. Today, I'll list 5 ways I use my time in ways that aren't helpful to me. I'll work at making time my friend. All right. I love you guys. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching. If you aren't subscribed yet, please do. And like this video, please. I appreciate it. Okay, bye.